Hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar where we will talk about multi-generational workforces. Here with me today, we have Florian of YourCampus and Carla of Conscious Hotels. I'm very excited to be here today. Appreciate all your time for dialing in. But let's start maybe with a quick introduction round. Florian, can I start with you?
For sure. Thanks, Erwin. And nice to meet everyone. My name is Florian. I'm the founder and CEO at YourCampus. About YourCampus, YourCampus is a employee benefits and rewards platform for employers with a diverse workforce, meaning people working at different locations, but also people working in different generations. So the interesting topic we will talk about today. Nice to meet you all, and happy to give you guys some insights today in how to deal with a multi-generational workforce.
Great, thank you, Florian. And Carla?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for dialing in, and also thanks for inviting me to join this webinar. So I'm Carla. I'm head of people at Conscious Hotels, and I will actually talk a little bit more about the company later in the webinar.
Great. And my name is Erwin van der Vlist. I'm one of the two founders of the company called Speakap. Started about 12 years ago. At that time, still studying at the university. But I also had a part-time job in retail. And that's where I experienced as a frontline worker how difficult it is to communicate with colleagues, with management, but also to receive news from the head office. So at that time, we talk about 2009, 2010, decided to create this technology together with Patrick, that's the other co-founder, launched it in Europe, grew it over the last decade, and also into the US. And currently, as of today, we work for about 700 brands in the world. And among them is also Conscious Hotel. And very excited for this webinar today and tell you a little bit more about how we see the multi-generational workforce from our perspectives. Throughout the webinar today, we will also launch one or two polls. So keep an eye out on the poll section. You can find it on the right bottom. So whenever you see it popping up, please leave your vote there. So the agenda for today, we will start with understanding the multi-generational workforce, the 4 generations that we will talk about today in further detail. The second item is how Conscious Hotels is successfully engaging their multi-generational workforce. We will give some best practices going forward. And at the end, we will definitely leave time for some Q&A. So if you have questions, write them down. At the end, we will definitely come back to those. But let's start with understanding the multi-generational workforce. We will zoom in on boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z more specifically. And on this slide, Florian and myself will share some perspectives when it comes to these 4 generations and how we see it from our perspectives and from our companies with our customers. And first, we'll start with the baby boomers. Born between 1946 and 64, a generation that really values hard work, dedication. They have accepted technology, but were not born into it. So for important information and important matters, this generation still prefers in-person communication or, for example, phone calls is something that we will see from Speakap's perspective. Florian, can you share yours?
Definitely. I think baby boomers, my parents. If I look at this generation, if I look at the research, but also the decisions our users make on the platform in regards to what benefits are important to them, we see definitely that time off is an important topic here, flexibility. So we can imagine that this workforce has been in the labor market for a long period of time. In often cases have some form of financial security, which is of course an important topic when it comes also to retirement topics. But spending time off with maybe their family financial security when it comes to pension, but of course also health we see as a priority for this workforce, since the workforce getting, in this case, you're getting slightly older, so maybe your physique is a bit more complicated. So staying healthy, moving, and in that regards, we see benefits like not the hardcore physical gym memberships, but more stepping on a bike, moving from A to B, eating healthy. So like the more accessible, healthy lifestyle topics are important benefits, which they highly appreciate what we see.
Great. Let's move to Gen X, born in 1965 and 1980. What we see here at Speakap, they really prioritize work-life balance, a healthy work-life balance, and also flexibility is becoming more and more important. This generation definitely embraced technology with the early days of the internet, and they're also open to change. We see that innovation is accepted. And really like an independence when it comes to how they want to work and how they want to communicate is definitely also valued. That are some of the things that we see here at Speakap customers. Florian.
Yeah, connecting to that, we see indeed work-life balance as an important topic. I think family overall is an important topic with a generation which still takes care of their kids. But overall, we see that when it comes to benefits, like which types of benefits you can think of are benefits, the flexibility topic, of course. So offering flexibility is important, but also showing that you understand them in regards to managing a young family or a family. And we see some interesting topics like benefits like HelloFresh, for example, like saving time basically during the day to still have access to healthy food. These types of benefits are highly popular here. And typically those are, I think the work-life balance is definitely a dominant benefit category, which we see here.
Great. Moving on to millennials. That's the generation that I'm from. We definitely value a collaborative and inclusive work environment. Obviously grew up with technology on primary school. I remember it very well. We already had computers and we had to make like our assignments using Word. I believe on Microsoft 95, if I'm not mistaken, a long time ago, if you imagine. We tend to desire frequent and constructive feedback so that we constantly can improve ourselves. And purpose-driven work is also very important.
Interesting. Yeah, if we look at on the benefit side, I think this is a very interesting group also to see in terms of usage. So what we see happening basically on our platform is that this is really a generation which is clearly also struggling a little bit when it comes to working, managing a young family. In some cases, also for younger generations, figuring out career decisions which they have to do. A lot of things come together basically here, but also in both work, but also in private life, like buying a house, for example. So there are a lot of different topics where employers can make a difference when it comes to offering a benefits package which support them throughout this life stage, which is related to buying a house, a family, staying healthy, and all of this obviously are drivers also for the state of mental health for this generation. So this is a very interesting topic where you can really make a difference with a more inclusive and flexible benefits package tailored around those topics.
Great. And lastly, Gen Z, born between 2001 and 2020, obviously born into a highly digital and connected world, technology all around. They definitely embraced digital communication tools more than any generation before. And we see that this generation is very independent. They really focus on purpose, on values that need to be aligned with the workplace in order for them to stay. and they're very comfortable with technology, obviously, because it's just part of their lives. And when they were babies, we already had the technology that in my generation only came when I was like 10 or 12 years old. So they embrace diversity, inclusivity in the workplace, environmental change, very important topics for this generation. Is the things that we see here from Speakap's side.
Yeah, definitely. I think we see the same in terms of technology, but also being more aware around the whole. I think the inclusivity topic and the environmental impact. There has been some recent research from Deloitte that purpose. We thought in the last couple of years that purpose was a very important driver to find a job. But recent research, you see that actually stability and financial security, so initial pay, is actually becoming is actually on their top priority list. So it's a super interesting change where in the last couple of years we thought purpose is something which attracts the young generation, and it definitely is important, but it's not number one on their list. I think this generation is also really exposed to the success of others through social media. I think in last couple of weeks I saw a few articles regarding the Fin influencers, right? The people talking about becoming financially successful through the courses they offer. And I think this generation is really much aware that they want to do work, but they also want to quickly make steps and make money. So it's I think a complex generation where, especially with leadership in organizations being in different generations, to understand these generations. But I think we should indeed see the need for innovative digital solutions in the workplace. But on the benefits and compensation side, don't forget that pay is extremely important for them.
Great, thank you, Florian. Moving on. So what we have seen and what we're reading in a lot of sources is that now and in the future we will have at least 4, maybe even 5 generations at the same time in the workforce that will be working. And that, of course, poses challenges for organizations because you need to take into consideration that these 4 or 5 generations have very different needs and different preferences. And some of the stats that we found are shown on the right. For example, 49% of baby boomers, they expect to working past the age of 70 and maybe even not retire at all, meaning that they will be a very long time part of the workforce. So that's definitely something to take into consideration when you are an organization dealing with multi-generational workforces. By 2030, Gen Z and millennials will account for 60% of the workforce, so growing very significantly. And in 2028, Gen X will already outnumber baby boomers. Interesting, what we've also found is that recent research by Gallup has seen that since the pandemic, the younger generations, their engagement have been decreasing. And that is a challenge that organizations really need to take serious and also need to create strategies to overcome that. So since pandemic, 4 to 5% decrease in engagement with millennials, Gen Z, and Gen X, and that's something to really take into consideration. Now, let's move to the real exciting topic of today, how Conscious Hotels is successfully engaging their multi-generational workforce. And for this, I'm giving the floor to you, Carla. So go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Erwin. Yeah, so we're very excited to show how we do it within our organization. So maybe if you can go to the next slide. For those who are not familiar with Conscious Hotels yet, we have 4 hotels, 2 restaurants, and 2 coffee bars in Amsterdam. And we live by our slogan, Eco-Sexy, Big Smiles. Just to briefly touch upon that, eco describes our main purpose, because everything we do is all about sustainability, and sustainability is really at the heart of everything that we do. And we've been doing so for the past 15 years. And to inspire our employees and our guests with our sustainable mindset, we like to provide them with stylish hotels, restaurants, and bars, and that's why we call it eco-sexy. And the final part of our slogan are the big smiles, and we like to get big smiles from our employees working with us, but also from our guests who are staying, sleeping, meeting, and eating with us. So yeah, just to summarize, we want to look good while doing good. And also last year, we acquired the Hotel V hotel chain in Amsterdam. And with that acquisition, our group now consists of 2 brands, 7 hotels and 4 restaurants. And let's have a look at how the workforce in the Conscious Hotels is currently divided in the different generations. Thanks, Erwin. So as you can see on this work slide, our workforce is quite young. The majority of the workforce consists of our millennials and Gen Z. And I think the young workforce suits our industry and our brand. Our management team members are mainly in the millennials generations, and they are the people leading our operational teams that are mostly in our Gen Z employees. And let's see the challenges that we encounter at Conscious Hotels when working with an generational workforce that's divided like this. I think there's 4 main challenges that I'd like to address today when it comes to working with a multi-generational workforce. The first is about the work-life balance. We really see that our younger team members prioritize their free time more and usually work part-time in our company, where the older generations have a full-time contract for 38 to 40 hours. And additionally, we also notice that Gen Z often work multiple jobs or even do freelancing on their side, which is obviously limiting their availability for their work with Conscious. So this is quite a challenge that we face, especially in our hotels that are open 24/7. And it also shows a different commitment to the company throughout the different generations. And the second challenge that I'd like to highlight today is about mental well-being. We notice a generational difference about how mental health is being approached, where the older generations tend to not prefer to openly discuss these matters, where our younger generations are way more open and vocal about their concerns towards their managers, which obviously allows us as an organization to act upon that and make sure that they stay as healthy as possible. I also think when we talk about mental well-being, that the younger employees face more uncertainty in their futures. If we look at the climate changing happening in the world or the housing shortage in the Dutch market, obviously the older generations don't have those concerns those extents in their daily lives. And also something we notice within our organization is that social justice topics are way more top of mind and way more vocally addressed by our younger employees, which obviously strikes some interesting conversations between their employees. The third challenge that I'd like to address is a difference that we see, and maybe a challenge that we have in technology and communication. As the world is rapidly evolving, also we at Conscious are adapting continuously and innovating our work processes and tools. And that also requires a different training in different generations. The older generation prefer to understand why and how the changes are happening and like to read a whole SOP, where the younger generation that is born in technology, as you mentioned before, Erwin, are more accustomed to technology and barely desire any explanation at all. And also, I think, given the nature of our business, we work in 8 different locations. We have 7 hotels, an office. We're open 24/7, and most of our workforce are not behind a laptop in an office, but there are frontline employees dealing with guests on a daily basis. The last challenge I think that would be interesting to address is about the recognition and rewards that we face as a challenge within our workforce. There's different needs in every generation. The younger employees also have a different need than the older employees when it comes to recognition in the workforce, where the younger employees value more often and more personal and informal recognition, where the older employees prefer more traditional forms of acknowledgement when it comes to their work. And there's also definitely a difference in rewarding needs. Florian, as you already mentioned, we also noticed that in our company, they're all in a different life, a phase of life, which also desires different needs. And to cater for all of those, it's quite a challenge, right? I think effectively managing these 4 challenges and promoting open communication and also understanding all of the strength that every generation brings, is definitely something that we're trying to improve. And how did we do that? Let's look at the next slide. I think we really noticed that ensuring effective communication throughout the whole organization was key, but also having the right employee benefit and reward system that has something to offer for each and every one of them was quite essential. So how did we do that? I tried to summarize it in the next slide. So we do work with both Speakap and YourCampus, and it turned out to be quite a successful combination for us. So we've been starting to use YourCampus in January 2023, so for over a year already. And obviously YourCampus is supporting us by offering the reward and a benefit program, and Speakap supports us already for a long time with our internal communications. And integrating both tech partners makes it a one-stop shop for our employees, which is a great benefit and easy to use. And let's just quickly go through the results, which I think are quite remarkable. On the left, we see YourCampus first. So, the wide variety of choice that is being offered on the platform is been really highly valued with a 4.3 out of 5. And obviously, with our own resources, we would have never been able to gather and offer all of these perks and benefits to our workforce. Also, there is a high engagement on the platform because we do see it does look like it's a one-size-fits-all tool. And what's really nice to see is that the doing good and the well-being benefits are highly popular with our Gen Z generation. We, for example, did see during the earthquake of Morocco last summer, or currently donations that are being made available to Gaza caught a lot of our people's attention, and were also mentioned and highlighted on Speakap. So that's really great to see. And also, we as an employer were able to select the more sustainable benefits, or actually leave out the non-sustainable ones, which also allows us to cater for a benefit package that fits our brand identity. Then speaking on Speakap, obviously they are a provider for our internal communications, and having that on a mobile device is key in order to reach all of our employees located in all the different locations and working around the clock. And Speakap really allows us to connect with each other, even though not in person, but digitally. And we can really inspire each other by sharing videos and photos, and also invite them to our monthly Vitality program. And the engagement is very, very high. As you can see on the slide, 69% of our workforce is active on the app, and we have 36% of daily visitors. If you keep in mind that 30% of our employee base work on a flex time base, so a 0-hour contract, I think, this is quite a remarkable result. And also 80% of our employees visit the platform at least on a monthly base. And I think a final note I'd like to make, that in my opinion, I think we just need to understand the generations better and do not force our traditional ways of working and thinking. It simply doesn't work anymore. The new generation already do represent a huge chunk of our workforce. And I think it's very important to our business and the success for now and the future to understand each other and making it work. So I think this pretty much concludes the case study that I wanted to present for Conscious Hotels. At the moment, I think, Erwin, we're back with you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, maybe Florian, maybe you have questions for Carla before we move on.
Yeah, I was curious. So in terms of the communication part, Carla, so is there kind of like a monthly moment that you communicate regarding your rewards and benefits programs through Speakap, for example? How do you do this?
Yeah, well, when we started working with Speakup in general, it really had to be a lot of a top-down communication. So really the management putting a lot of messages on the platform. I think as it matured over the past couple of years, we see that actually the employees are mostly the ones actively engaging with each other. So it was really nice to see that they are actually promoting certain benefits through Speakup and encouraging other employees to do so. From our people and development department, for example, the YourCampus benefit budget expires every year. So towards the end of the year, we made sure to encourage everyone to finish their budgets before it was being put to zero again on the 1st of January. And that's also when we see that a lot of donations were done by all of the charity options that are in the app. So it was really nice to see how that kind of internally got promoted.
Nice. I think it's really nice to see in terms of what we sometimes forget is how important a benefits program can be to bring across your company culture. So what you mentioned earlier, right? Like doing good and being sustainable is one of the main things like you guys stand for as a brand and as an employer. And it's nice to see that that you actually see that back in the choices people make. So it seems like it's like culturally well aligned. So that's what I really like to see.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like to think, and I know that it brings a lot of purpose for people that work with us, knowing they will make a difference.
Nice.
And Carla, you just mentioned you started with Speakup more like a top-down for important / formal news as a channel, basically to get everybody up to speed on important internal news. Later, that evolved into something that is more like maybe bottom up or more collaborative. Like, do you have idea what like that evolution? Why that happened in that way?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was mainly exactly doing more of the important communication, and it kind of evolved into more of a social media platform. I think one of the things that really helped is that we encouraged new employees to introduce themselves with a picture, and then that kind of spirals into people starting to connect with each other, responding to each other's posts. So I think making sure everybody gets onto the platform and introduce themselves lowers the bar, because it can also be sometimes a bit of maybe people are a bit scared, right, to put on their face and communications internally. And we like to be very informal and open. So by making sure that engagement and that openness is from the start of the onboarding, I kind of appreciate it, helps into making sure that that Speakup is a platform on itself, and we don't need to keep it alive. Let's put it that way.
Right. It's basically self-sufficient in a way. Of course, you need to add content from from the company's perspective, but also locally it can be done. And like, given the fact that you have a very young generation working at Conscious Hotels, I'd be interested. Do you see any differences, like when it comes to like the generations and how often they post? Like, I have a personal example. Like, my mother is more active on Facebook than I am, for example, and that's something that we also see with like a lot of people using Speakup as technology. I'm very curious if you see the same.
Definitely. We see the older generation, especially our few baby boomers, are very active on the platform, and we encourage them to do so. The younger generation don't tend to post a lot on, they will like, but they're definitely reading. We can see from the statistics that they're definitely getting all of the information, and they're on the platform. It doesn't mean they're actually posting a lot of things. We do see, however, that the younger generation does upload a lot of videos, for example, where the older generation more prefers to do it in writing.
Right, interesting. That's really cool. Florian, do you have any other questions, or should we move to the next slide?
No, we can move on to the next slide.
Okay, let's do it. So best practices going forward. We're slowly wrapping up this webinar, but before we do, and before we enter the Q&A, some of the best practices that we want to share with you, the audience, from our perspectives, and I'll start with Florian.
Regarding the first topic, Erwin, so to go
Exactly.
yeah. I think the key here is really flexibility, right? So I think that the best practice we want to share is that if you start with a short survey in your organization to understand where the needs are, because every organization is different. It's quite likely if you have an organization which is bigger than well, I think if you are already with 10 people in a room, you will notice that everyone wants something else. But the larger you grow, the more diverse the needs will become. I think starting with a survey and then define an offering which fits well with your employer brand, but also with the workforce needs, is one of the things I would advise as a best practice for everyone.
Great. Yeah, and the second one, bridging the generational gap with a communication technology like Speakap is really like powerful. It's a mobile first type of solution. People can use it on their own preferred device. And when you take into consideration the different generations, you can use these type of technologies to, for example, use it for clear, concise, to Carla's point, written messages when it comes to the older generations. But on the other hand, for the younger generations, you can utilize video and maybe podcasts and make it like a bit more interactive, because that is some of the preferences that these younger generations have. What we also see is that it can really be used to actually avoid those silos and bring together and support culture across generations. So enabling it as a collaborative tool, a way for everybody to be in the know, is very powerful. It's definitely a way to bridge that generational gap and bring people closer to each other. Carla, maybe anything to add from your side when you look at these two best practices moving forward before we go to the Q&A?
Yeah, no, I can only underline what you're saying is absolutely something that we also see in our organization, and it's great, to have a combination of both. When we looked at the benefits, there's 330 people in our workforce, and everybody has got their own wishes. There's some people that also have been working with Conscious for a very long time, and they said, when we just had one hotel, we could have discount on the gym next door. But that doesn't is a value for maybe an employee that doesn't live in Amsterdam and doesn't work in that specific property. So we were really struggling in finding, a benefits package that would actually cater for everyone. And when it comes to communication, something that always inspires me is that also, for example, our reception team, they're very eager to show the positive reviews that guests leave online and post them on Speakap to inspire each other, encourage each other. And so also sharing success is something that is very successful to do on Speakap. Great.
Well, we have received a few questions already, and the first question is actually for you, Carla. This is a question from Tom. How do you manage the dynamics so the older generations don't feel ostracized? What is the Speakap user data by generations?
Yeah, so as 69% of the users are active, so I think all of our generations are on the platform. As Erwin already mentioned with his mom, we see it also in Conscious that the older generation is very actively posting, even sometimes asking, hey, is a management reading, when they're posting great reviews, for example. So it's a very, I think by making it fun and not too serious, it really helps in making sure everybody is engaged on the platform. Sometimes we also add polls, which is more used by the younger generations, where if we try to post events, we sometimes have to make some more reminders so everybody also actively engages and participates in those events. But for sure, everybody is on board and reading along, and most of them are also posting, but the content is different. Great.
We have more questions. The next one also for you, Carla. what kind of communication channels do you use to communicate to the non-desk-based workers, so the people at the head office?
So we also have a Speakap throughout the whole organization, and we have Speakap also installed per location. So you can either post something for just headquarters or for the whole organization. So those options are all available. So Speakap is our main source of communication. Yet, obviously, having an office job, we also work with the Google Office package. So we also do have our chat, but I think the main communication or main general communication happens on Speakap.
Great, thank you. Another question, I think, Florian, you and I can take this one. This is a question about the differences between Western generational cohorts from boomers to Gen Z to other countries. And from the person asking this question's experience is that these cohorts do not always align with the cohorts in other countries. So do you see differences when it comes to the benefits that people utilize in different countries that you guys are active in?
We don't have enough data to give a good answer to this, to be honest. So we do have in our user base and employee base using the platform cultural differences, obviously, at our customers. But it's in the data, it's hard for us to, we don't ask the question, let's say, from which culture are you, for example, and we don't have enough users from countries outside of the Western region to give a proper answer to this, to be honest.
Yeah, from Speakap side, what I can share is that we do see differences when it comes to certain countries compared to one another. I've lived for 5 years in the US to expand the business to the US market. And surprisingly, what I've seen there is that tools like Speakap are used different. So here in Europe, often our solution is being used to replace WhatsApp groups, bulletin boards, and people are using the app because they want to use the app, and they can also do it, let's say, in the evening on the couch when they, I don't know, when they have a minute or two, or in the break room. But in the US, I've seen that a lot of customers ask us to disable the chat messages because it poses like liabilities or compliance issues. And I've never had those requests before I moved there and before we had US customers, for example. And using the technology also off the clock poses also certain compliance and legal challenges I found in the US. So in a way, my assessment, and that's I cannot base that on like data, but only my experience, is that the US is a more top-down type of culture using our technology, while in Europe and especially in the Netherlands, it's like Carla also mentioned, moving more to a bottom-up and like a user-generated, where people have more freedom and flexibility in utilizing the technology. But then in Germany, where we have a lot of customers as well, I see actually a little bit in between the US and the Netherlands, and in France as well. While in Spain and in Latin America, where we have a lot of customers, they open it up even much more than in the Netherlands. So how these different countries, and not per se cultures, I would say, but it's all the Western world in a way, is quite interesting to see in practice. Yeah. So I hope that answers the question a little bit.
Yeah, I think Erwin, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Carla.
Something that I can maybe add to the topic is that pre-corona, I think our main force was mainly Dutch. So all of our communications was also in Dutch. But now we have such an international bunch of people. I think there's over 21 different nationalities within our company. So we have been working hard the past years to really translate each and every document, and also changing our main language to English, which I think if you work in a multi-international company, looking at the workforce nationalities, it's key, obviously, to choose a language that everybody can read, so people don't feel left out.
And Florian, you also want to add something?
This is one thing which popped to mind when you talked about Germany. What we notice we have a lot of customers in Germany, is that we notice that the preferred communication channel for the end user is often mobile. But interestingly, we also got more requests than ever in Germany to have a desktop version available, because people are not always willing. They don't always have a phone from work, so they don't always are willing to download, for example, an app on their private phones. And this was, I think, for me, like something I never heard in the Dutch market before. Super interesting to, if you want to be inclusive there and respect also the decision for the end user to indeed have multiple communication channels to the end user.
Yeah, interesting. And that might have to do because they really want to separate their work from their private life.
Yeah, that's very interesting, these cultural or country-specific differences. We have another question, and it's, I think, also the last question before we wrap things up here. There's a question from Eline, and I think this question is for you, Carla. Do you also use the app for psychological safety issues?
Well, I'm not sure what but if I can, what I would springs to mind is that we do communicate about the confidentiality counselor. So in Dutch, the vertrouwenspersoon that we have. So the contact details are definitely available on Speakap, so people can reach out to our both internal and external confidentiality counselor through Speakap or by phone. So that's definitely communicated there, and we also have all of our HR policies, for example, on Speakap and our employee handbook. So people have direct access to important documents in case they have any of those needs. And obviously, through YourCampus, there's also a lot of benefits and perks that our employees can choose from when it comes to mental support and health, which they can also have options on YourCampus to spend their budget on or get discounts on those services. Also, we have our Vitality program within our group, in which every month we organize a Vitality activity. So that could be a workshop about mental health, it could be an ice bath, it could be a yoga session, you name it. So every month there is something different from all of our employees. And in that way, we try to make sure that, our employees are aware that we value their vitality and their health, but also try to bring them together in person and not just digitally. I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. Lastly, a very small question. On the results page on one of the slides earlier, it was stated that the app engagement is 96%, but you mentioned 69%.
Oh, sorry, no, it's 96%. Sorry, okay. Only 4% have not yet accepted the invite. No, 96%, that's correct. I said it wrong. Yeah.
No worries. It was one of the final, it was the final question that we got.
Good to clarify, it's correct on the slide.
Perfect. Well, I think we're wrapping up this webinar. It's 45 minutes, so exactly on time. I want to thank you all for attending, and also thank you, Carla and Florian, for your great role in this webinar. And thank you so much. And don't forget to sign up for the next webinar. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you all.